Hey there, welcome to episode 56 of the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program. Today is the morning of Friday, March 22nd, 2024. Today we're going to talk about action on the ground from the perspective of the Entrepreneurial Innovation Ecosystem and the people in it. We have gone here before, an entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem populated by those who would wait for someone else to take action will find it slow going, and we certainly have that here in the Greater Vegas area. The people steering the ship, that is the Greater Vegas Entrepreneurial Innovation Ecosystem, do they have this? In other words, do the people who are driving look to someone else to do things, whether it's celebrity or a certain cadre of people in the inner circle? Let's get started with links. It's a short list today. Wherever you have found this audio program, even on YouTube, which is coming soon. Google is dropping Google Podcasts, so we'll add on the YouTube podcast feature. I got to get on iTunes. So wherever you found this audio program, hopefully there's a episode description which has the links. I'm probably going to reformat the links so that they show up better in the RSS feed-based services, even YouTube. Hopefully, though, you are able to see them, click on them. The first two are my shameless self-promotion, buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo, ko-fi.com/DanHugo. Buy Me a Coffee is the profile page there, has links to the, as of today, 4 weekly audio programs which I produce. If you ever want to be a guest on one of them, reach out. If you are looking for the other programs, they're there. Let's Innovate for Vegas, from the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, this program, Impresarios, the Quaggling Sand audio program, which is more random stories and such, and the FFS Talk audio program, which is about what works, what doesn't, what we can do about it in general. Could be any topic. All these programs are great with guests. Discussion can go where it may. ko-fi.com/DanHugo. I don't really use that much, but it's there. I gotta figure out how to use that. I've been saying that forever. Progress on Hollywood 2.0. There's a review journal article on the studio, Sony movie studio. That's a lot of eggs in one basket. We'll see. Backed by Mark Wahlberg. Mark Wahlberg, of course, living here in Vegas with his family. Frequently in the news for how good a time he's having, how everything is working out great. He recently released latest, I think, movie, the Arthur the King, which is a dog that that his character finds on a cross-country hike of some sort. Did not see the movie. Vaguely familiar with it. From what I understand, it did not do great financially. These are weird times for movies in general. But it did get an extremely high Rotten Tomatoes score, if you are into that. I like to just look and see if I like the movie rather than what other people think, but if you're a Rotten Tomatoes fan, apparently it's done quite well. So Mark Wahlberg, new kid on the block here in Vegas, is part of the Hollywood 2.0 driving effort. The City of Las Vegas Economic Development head, he was the head of Urban and Economic Development, whatever the actual name is. And I don't mean to make light of that. Ryan Smith, I did know Ryan Smith. Ryan passed away at age 36 recently. We're not talking about that. But, and so many condolences to his family and his work colleagues and everyone who knew him. I did know Ryan somewhat. I had been in various meetings with him, a few conversations here and there. Seemed like a nice guy. I don't know that his department is great. We'll continue to watch that. If you are a small business person, then the work that the economic development people do for the city is a part of what could be good or what could be bad when it comes to certain resource availability issues and attracting certain types of business and showing preferential treatment and so on. This is not, so we're not talking about Ryan, although I do want to acknowledge that Ryan did pass away. Age 36, very young man. But the Review Journal article did focus on, of course, this unfortunate turn of events. I'm actually fine with, we don't know what happened, and I think that's fine. I don't think everybody needs to know every detail. However, I did find it interesting that if you read the article, you'll see, the only people prominent of note named, referred to, are from Startup NV and Startup Vegas. And by the way, those are merged, so they're really just one company. One would think that in a city of 577, give or take, 1,000 people, census data, with so many different things going on, so many good things, so many bad things, that there would be a variety of people from different industries rather than the faux next Silicon Valley movement. So be it. But again, very unfortunate, a big loss. Ryan was a nice guy, at least. Good people. I don't know about him and his job performance, so I'm not commenting on that. But he himself seemed like a nice guy. So that's always sad. And the impact of Formula One on local business, the News 3 local news channel here in Las Vegas, did a segment of video, so you can watch the video on their website. I've linked to that article page concerning Clark County having the Clark County Commission having a hearing or a gathering of sorts. I think it was a hearing to hear from a smaller local business that was negatively impacted by the Formula One race event. So that's good to see that they're listening. Now we'll find out if they really were. I would wager my dollar on the don't pass line. So the problem with Vegas, if we can get the show started, this is my opinion based on 10 years of observation so far. And most recently, the still pending trademark. I have not checked it for a couple of weeks now. But the fun economy rules, as we've discussed already. I've done several programs on this, especially related to Formula One in particular, which had all the makings of issues on the ground. And by the way, Action from the Ground Up is that the title I said it was? Yes. Action on the Ground, sorry. Action from the Ground Up, Action on the Ground, means people who are impacted directly, the masses, the larger population, should have a voice, but it should also have a mechanism to participate. So not only a voice, but a voice that is listened to and acted upon. So the writing was on the wall. The effect of the Formula One race on small business is deference to the fun economy. The fun economy is the important part, and the winners will be few, the losers may be many. It is also an entrepreneurial economy, believe it or not, to an extent. And there is even some innovation happening here. If you ever look into water conservation, water sustainability, water recapture, Lake Mead does fluctuate quite a bit, but the city, the county, Southern Nevada, very strong in the areas of water conservation, water recovery, and so on. So there is innovation here. And there's innovation in other areas as well. It's not a complete innovation desert. Unfortunately, it's not the focus, even though people would like to think or say that we are an innovation hub. We rival San Francisco, actual text written on the Mobile World Congress, MWC, Las Vegas website back in the day. I actually took a screenshot, but I couldn't find it. So I'll have to save that for another time. But the Mobile World Congress Las Vegas second year was end of September 2023. It is a tiny event by comparison. Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, huge. It's CES plus, really, when you think about it. Unfortunately, Vegas management, and I use the term Vegas as most people do on the planet to refer to an area much larger than the administrative boundaries of the city of Las Vegas. So the people in charge, the people driving things, and their friends. So the government, the non-government organizations, some industry types, their best buddies, the people who always seem to be getting mentioned and getting some sort of benefit, believe their own hype. There's a lot of groupthink here. So any headline posted on LinkedIn, for example, and LinkedIn is the favorite website for the cool people, that suggests that this is the next Silicon Valley, for example, gets a ton of likes, a lot of back slapping, a lot of mutual admiration society, circular celebration. not the only reason, but certainly one of the things about LinkedIn that led me myself to stop using it really primarily in use now as a network graph tool. So to make the actual connection with a person, see if we have mutual connections and so on. But the use of LinkedIn for selective publication and sharing of information, news, etc., pontificating, etc., lost its luster. I think it's too close a community. You tend to have a groupthink reinforcement. So when it comes to this is going to be the next Silicon Valley and everybody likes and claps and shares and celebrates and is generally approving of the sentiment without actually communicating with the rest of the people who might wonder, are you talking about here? Certainly not. So let me touch on the reason I put the 3 articles in the links today. I don't want to go too crazy. Sometimes I list a lot of links, and there are too many. So we'll keep today's episode a little more focused. There are many areas. The 3 here today, celebrities. People at the top here, people in the management, love celebrities. And of course, Vegas with residency programs and being the destination city that it is, we're very high profile. The celebrity pool now includes local professional athletes and their infrastructure. More and more, especially with the Sphere now, more and more celebrity residents and special performances. And there's always been a strong presence of various celebrities performing and even celebrity chefs, even well-known people who come to Vegas periodically or who set up a base of operations here and so on. So it's sort of built into the fun economy. People come to see celebrities. That's part of the upside. So, that's fine. Local media mostly covers these sorts of things. So if a not so famous person was driving the Hollywood 2.0 effort, whatever that really is, it's just a risk. It's an economic possibility. Local media would almost certainly cover things like a stadium being built, a resort being torn down, crime and politics and how they mix. These are the things that get attention here. But when you add Mark Wahlberg to the mix, suddenly it's very exciting, very all manner of possibility. And so our local media tends to cover those things. By the way, these are all in the context of the small business and entrepreneur, the local innovator, the innovator who comes to Vegas now and then for extended periods, so not local. What's in it for you, so to speak? If you're not in the upper echelons of cool, you may not get the sort of access and resources and so on that a celebrity might get. You won't get any attention. How do people find out about my startup? Well, you need to have Mark Wahlberg. I keep saying that. I'm old school. Got to have Mark Wahlberg. You got to have a celebrity. Otherwise, nobody cares. That's not true. The nobody is a subset of a small part of the population. Unfortunately, with so much attention flowing to a very small number of people, important decisions about funding and general direction influenced substantially by this worship. Normal entrepreneurs and innovators will need to rely on trickle-down benefits. So you have to be Mark Wahlberg adjacent. Mark Wahlberg is one prominent example, and he was just in the news yet again. And of course, the studio in Summerlin, the tax credit that Mark is trying to drive for the state, tax credits to bribe companies to come here. And that's how media production, movies especially, works. You go and produce a movie that's set in pick a place that's set in the Shire. You film it in New Zealand because the terrain, but also the cost of production are good, right? So you choose locations for these, especially larger budget movie productions, based on the finances. That's a major component. So, if there's a Hollywood 2.0 here, it will rely heavily on the financial aspect. So that's the way that business goes. So Hollywood 2.0 is getting a lot of attention thanks to Mark Wahlberg. And by the way, Dean Cain also moved to Las Vegas. So if you ever want to know the inner workings, the mindset, the thinking process, celebrities relocating from California to Vegas, you can ask Mark Wahlberg and you can ask Dean Cain. And I guess that's it. So they're coming in droves. There was a time, I think it was 2022, when Mark Andreessen of Andreessen Horowitz of Netscape fame, disclaimer, I did work at Netscape when Mark Andreessen, Marka, was the baby face, the cover boy of the big internet changing the world entity. So Jim Barksdale, Jim Clark, Jim or James Barksdale and Clark took a back seat. It was the wonderkind Mark Andreessen driving the show. There were never any comments or kibitzing internally amongst the engineering people, especially the ones in the founding group with whom I actually ended up working quite a bit. So nobody ever had any comments on that. Mark Andreessen was pondering a residency here. He purchased some property. When that happened, I recall explicitly certain people in the economic development group especially being very excited, asking, do you know Mark Andreessen? No, but I know John Galt. So very excited at the possibility of Mark Andreessen coming here. So, and you will hear this often, the founder of this, or the lead developer of that, or they're moving to Vegas. And that's fine. They may be moving to Vegas to have a place to stay when they visit Vegas. I don't know if they would base their, whatever level of success that they've achieved, if they would move that to Vegas. But he was pondering a residency here in Greater Vegas. He does, I believe, or did purchase property. I couldn't find if he still owns it, but he may have sold it. But he has doubled down on California. So for all the excitement, for all the tittering and twittering of the impending move of Mark Andreessen to our this is the next Silicon Valley innovation hub, that went nowhere. So Hollywood 2.0 seems more likely if a suitable financial environment can be established for studios such as Sony to produce movies here. So we'll see how that goes. Celebrity helps, no question about it. If you want to do something and you can get Dana White on your side, or you can get the mayor has a certain amount of cachet for the final remaining months, mayor of Las Vegas. Or if you can find a celebrity who visits here frequently, if you can get Britney Spears on your side, who knows where that could go, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So there are a lot of celebrities floating around, either full-time residents, the Dean Cain and Mark Andreessen, Mark Wahlberg, and or visiting residence programs for entertainment, and so on and so on and so on. So there's a lot going on there. Celebrities are a big deal here. Partner with them for your startup, maybe. Think about that. So once again, the passing of Ryan Smith, very unfortunate. This is not about Ryan so much, but it is interesting that, and again, not a lot of details, and I think that's good. We don't always need to know. But Ryan did pass away. He was the head of the Department of Urban and Economic Development, I think it was. You can read about it in the article, but I have had dealings with Ryan, like I said, very few, very little, but seemed like a nice guy. Not sure about some of the people that work for him. They received some, not by name. I think I didn't see anybody named in the department, except for the person filling in in the interim. It was the deputy director, I think it was. You can read the article. Unfortunately, so the Review Journal is a paper of record according to City of Las Vegas ordinance. It's an actual stated in our laws that the Review Journal and the Las Vegas Sun are papers of record. I find that interesting. So they made a point, and it's a particular journalist with whom I've had a lengthy discussion regarding these very two things. And that seems to have been completely forgotten, entered the ether, vaporized. But this very same author, I don't know about journalist, but author of the article, obtained commentary from the leadership of Startup NV and Startup.Vegas. I would like to think that urban and economic development touches a lot of people across all communities. And the nature of the Greater Vegas area means some of what was happening in Vegas affects some of the nearby Vegas adjacent activities. You would hope that there's a group effort, but it may not be. Who knows what the behind closed doors, private meeting, how can we benefit the fewest number of people meetings, what happens there. But they touch a lot of people. So I found it interesting, disconcerting, maybe even disappointing that they went with Startup NV and Startup Vegas for comments. Now, this is a continued perception that we're going to be the next Silicon Valley, that we're a great innovation hub. Do remember that Southern Nevada was not selected as an innovation hub among the 31 localities that were by the federal government to receive some federal funding, grant monies, and so on. So Reno for energy storage or something with the rich strike of lithium in the Washoe County area somewhere. So Innovation Hub, Northern Nevada. But if we continue to focus as though we are going to be the next Silicon Valley, then of course we want to get feedback and opinion from Startup NV and Startup Vegas, which, according to their own press, according to their own messaging and so on. And by the way, they did merge, so they're the same company. So treating them as two separate entities is sort of disingenuous, especially from this particular author. They are focused almost entirely on tech. So if you are an entrepreneur and you want to do something that is not unicorn likely, then Startup NV is probably not for you. They will help you with their Accelerate NV or their Incubate NV or whatever other programs they have. But when it comes to actually obtaining funding or being part of an accelerator program, not as interesting. So if you're not in the tech, or if you're not doing tech that's interesting, you may not get any attention. Yet these are the people who comment on Mr. Smith. I think it's disingenuous. It's something to be concerned about, though. Why? Because, first of all, there's only one game in town, Startup NV/Startup.Vegas. The newspaper goes to them. The paper of record goes to a very small number of people in a very vertical industry in a city that is known for its fun economy, which, by the way, benefits food and drink a lot. So if you're an entrepreneur in the food or beverage industry, whether it's a restaurant, a bar, a celebrity chef spot in a resort, et cetera, et cetera. So the food and beverage get attention, which is good if you reach a certain level of celebrity. But in the meantime, I'm concerned that the entrepreneurial and innovation ecosystem, the terrain on which it rests, is slanted heavily in one direction, and that may or may not be good for you, and that's something to think about. It's also yet another reason for people who are trying to do good things. They're trying to implement an idea, they're trying to create business, they're trying to hire people. You matter, and that's why I think the voices from the ground, action on the ground, people who are doing things, not just being celebrated, need to be empowered to make and affect change. There is systemic bias towards these well-known people. The perception that the tech industry is the future. I think it's a future. To say that Silicon Valley didn't have, and I've said this before, it doesn't have card houses for gambling, doesn't have certain types of legalized gaming, to say that they don't have a professional sports industry of sorts. The Raiders and now the A's, I guess, want to depart the East Bay, but it is what it is. They certainly have a thriving restaurant and bar business. The food in the Bay Area is arguably more famous. Certainly good. I lived there in that area for about 15 years. And yet there is also a lot of innovation happening there. Imagine that. So there's nothing that says you cannot be entrepreneurial and innovative, even in the tech sector in the Greater Vegas area. The issue becomes, what if that's the only thing people talk about, and only if you are a celebrity, and then we don't really have the other pieces that we need? And we should talk about that, not ignore it. So hence the concern that the people on there, and then the same thing with the next topic here, the Formula One situation. If you only listen to the celebrities, the upper level, you're only looking at the dollar signs, you may miss the finer details where things don't always work out for the larger number of people. A few people may win, a few more people may not. So on to Formula One. There was a hearing. You can look at that webpage for the News 3 LV website. Clark County commissioners were talking about having this meeting. I think there was going to be a lawsuit. I believe I have talked about this previously. A lawsuit was filed against the LVCVA, the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, which wields a lot more power than even I really knew about until the last 2 years or so when I've been, oh, wow, that's crazy. The LVCVA, Formula One, and Clark County, and maybe the city of Las Vegas too, who knows. So I believe that lawsuit has either been filed or it will be, or it's certainly been talked about. It's gotten some news coverage. That's the only way you get news coverage. You have to actually take action against the big guys. But there was a hearing held, Clark County commissioners and local small business owners, to talk about the impact of Formula One, which was not necessarily positive for everyone. Real financial losses, a real decrease in foot traffic or awareness, access, the change in the demographic for tourism for that particular time. I've talked about this before. The question was, during construction, did people put off plans where they would have come to Vegas but for that construction, but for the changes on the Strip? We all know about the trees at the Bellagio, the various other sweeping changes that were made in the interest of this event. So, well, why go to Vegas? Let's just go some other time. Well, this has an actual impact on various businesses. It's not merely the resort the visitors may have been planning to stay at, but if they go outside, if they interact with any other, who knows, they may have gone to the arts district and hung out there. So actual losses, actual material impact felt by small businesses. Finally, they talked about it at this commission meeting. The Formula One race for its first year, of course, had some unknowns, and that's what they do point out as the reporter, the news person, has some discussions. There's some fairly obvious ones. The second one will be on us. The first one, so you can watch the video. I'm not really quoting here, but I will say the race. I don't know if it was in this article. I think it was, but you can find these numbers. The race, the Formula One event, allegedly brought in over $800 million in a visitor economic benefit. Right? People came and spent money. They spent money on hotel rooms, resort rooms, gambling, gaming, food, drink, partying, memorabilia, etc. That may or may not mean that particular week of visitors spent money where a different group of visitors during that week may have spent their money. They may not have had access to places due to limitations moving around for pedestrians and even cars. They may have put off a trip to go to Vegas, to come to Vegas, I should say, for the race itself. So there may have been a change in the week over week through the construction period and then after and so on. So there's a lot of impact that may or may not be measured. It may be treated as just opaque numbers, we call them. So like, oh, don't know what, hey, it was 300,000 people. It was $800 million or so, a little bit more. I think it was closer to 850 or more. But over $800 million of economic benefit thanks to the Formula One race. Possibly not thanks to the construction and the aftermath, but we only want to look at that 1 week for maximum benefit. This is called motivated reasoning sometimes, but who knows? So the subject of this meeting was more about the impact of the other parts of that time frame, construction and alterations in flow of foot traffic and car traffic and general visitor demographic and so on. If you listen to the end of the video segment, I found this so typical. There is a proposal floated, and someone points this out as far as they generally say that the resources here are public. There are people who paid for the roads and people who use the roads to get to the workplace. And like, it took me an extra 2 hours to get to work and I was still late. So people treating local resources that have been there to help them conduct business, get to work and so on, those were taken away for the benefit of few, right? So at the end, there's a suggestion that there could be a fund put in place to help with financial losses, help to support small businesses who are negatively impacted by the Formula One event. And the final word is from the reporter. who is going to pay for it? Let us review. Those people over there made over 800 or took in revenue over $800 million. And those people over there suffered a loss because of the other people over on that other direction there. They made a lot of money. Those people over there lost a lot of money. So if we have a fund to help the people who lost a lot of money, maybe we should ask the people who made a lot of money. I know that's crazy. So the general problem with this is that risk is often socialized. So we'll take the roads that have been paid for and are used by the people day to day, and we'll make that risk social. We'll spread that risk around to everybody. And then when it comes to the profits, those are privatized. That means a few people will maximally benefit. And if people lose on the other end of that spectrum, that's business, that's capitalism, that's how that works. So I kind of think this is a problem, but I've already done another episode recently on the fact that the thought process is seemingly about the fun economy and about benefit that goes to those who get the most press. It is very exciting to tell the world that there was $800 million in tourism revenue thanks to the first Formula One race in Vegas. It's like an opening weekend for a blockbuster movie, a movie that costs $200 million. It makes $10 million not exciting. You want to get that $200 million movie to have $1 billion opening, right? Even though you screwed over the other movies, well, that's how that works. But so there's a lot to be said for people who are thinking about the long-term impact of some of the decisions that are made and taking that into account to try to, as the saying goes, lift all boats. Rising tide does exactly that most of the time. So thinking that includes everyone, quote unquote everyone, at least in the discussion, at least in the sharing of information, at least in measuring impact, it really shouldn't have taken, and I'm not even, having been a small business person, having been in family businesses, having been involved in not tech efforts of various kinds, justifiably frustrated, and it showed in some interviews over the last couple of months about small businesses who were negatively impacted. The pedestrian bridge that was taken down eventually, the general impact. These are real material losses that put families and businesses and their employees in jeopardy. And so to believe that your own city or county is preferring to look after the people who already have and excited about the people who have and now have more, and you're looking at your balance sheet saying, I'm going to need some more red pens. That just doesn't work. We have top-down planning and deal-making. There isn't that regard for the small players. So if small players can't participate in big wins, and I'm not saying that you this is not an equity of access to financial upside, but it is a question of what are we doing to mitigate the actual physical roadblocks that are put up to prevent some from doing business in favor of others. So when you look at the benefit, it's $800 million in revenue versus companies that lost millions of dollars for the sake of those revenue numbers. It should stop and make you think, especially if what you would like to accomplish, your entrepreneurial and or innovative future, if it's to be here in the Greater Vegas area, will your celebrity or lack of have a material impact on your access to resources, the possibility that you might succeed? If you aren't doing something that's appealing to Startup NV and Startup.Vegas, which are now one entity, will you have access to funding? Access to capital is a big thing here. Well, they may help you, but if we are overly focused on a particular sector that we will not be a major player in, if we are not deferential to small business when it comes to opportunities for big business to make yet more money, making most maximal use of our fun economy, then there are questions to be asked. Where do you even ask those questions? Do you show up to an event with the same 120 to 150 people every month and lament? Do you attend a city council meeting and talk to people who may or may not have any idea what you're talking about? Unless you're opening a bar, then they'll show up, Ribbon cutting, bar, yes. Coffee shop for special needs people so that they can have a job and be productive and feel good about themselves. We'll just send somebody else from the city. So the city loves celebrity. They love being seen. The people running it, I should say. So if you are not going to be a celebrity, if you're just going to be a normal person trying to do your thing, it's something to think about. The new way of the fun economy. Don't be a buzzkill. Don't talk about negative impacts. Everything has to be fun. Fun, fun, fun. So from the ground up, my notion, which I've been talking about for months or years, it was the reason we had the Genius Roundtable, version 1. Version 2 is still somewhere on the table. It's a question of finding people who have their wits about them. Let's just leave it there. The socialized risk and private property. So public risk, you can say that. Public risk, private profit. It's something to think about. It's something that happens when you have top-down or central planning. The benefit goes up. The costs go down the infrastructure, not reduction in cost. So you can look at this on the national stage. During the pandemic, Big Pharma, Moderna, Pfizer raked in the money. They took tons and tons, millions, billions of research dollars, and they've kept the profits and provided major bonuses and so on. Nothing like a public health emergency around the globe to jack up the balance sheet. Military contracts, various pork spending elements of different spending bills and other legislation that flows through Congress. So that you kind of go, oh, well, we need to pass this bill, but it includes $700 million for a baseball stadium in Vegas. Yeah, whatever. I'm just making that up. So from the ground up means we stop thinking in terms of what is my local government? What is my federal government? And I'm not trying to be insurrectionist here. What I am saying, though, is that if you're going to be entrepreneurial, if you're going to be innovative, but you are waiting for someone from on high, from above you, so to speak, in an org chart, to make a decision, to help you in some way, to help you connect or help you to have access to capital, if you are waiting for someone else, this is not the place. You will continue to wait, in my opinion. Occasional surveys, public outreach and engagement meetings, reliance on lazy local media that doesn't really speak to most people about interesting things unless it's a stadium or crime and politics or a fun economy. If you're not doing something in the fun economy, if you are a student who wins an award, you may get mentioned maybe once, twice, and then you will fade into history and no one will even know who was that student that won? I don't even know where to look. Right. And so the Innovate Vegas Foundation, of which I'm the managing director, we have some ideas for this to try to promote, especially young people who are trying to be innovative. So we'll touch on that here in my closing section of my notes. But the service of 600,000 Las Vegas residents and the 2.3 million or so residents of the Greater Vegas area, sometimes called Clark County, but Greater Vegas could be any size you like. They ultimately, by only doing occasional surveys and these public meetings, the city government folks will occasionally have meetups and meetings, and they might even pay for food for them. They're ridiculous. I've been to them. They're awful, and they are not effective. They do not actually perform real value action. The attendance is what it is. This, you could argue, that's just the way government is. But if we shrug our shoulders and tolerate the status quo, then what sorts of entrepreneurs and innovators are we, I might say? So if we are allowing this disservice to limit the scope and grandeur of our entrepreneurial innovative ecosystem, well, I guess we're done. But we could eschew the status quo. We could avoid those with shoulders shrugged when it comes to what are we doing about this. If we are truly a smart city, and the city of Las Vegas itself, and certainly the Greater Vegas area, truly believes that we are already a smart city. And I've always argued, since we founded the Innovate for Vegas Foundation, initially as the Code for Vegas Foundation, I've always argued that our goal for our organization is to make our smart city smarter. Oh, that might include just starting with making it a smart city for real. part of being a smart city is the access to information, the ability to express opinions, to measure impact of things like a Formula One race on small business without relying on a few people making the most noise for the sake of their peers so that they get some attention. You shouldn't have to suffer financial losses in this case, and then in addition to that, have to take additional time a small business person often does not have, to pursue legal action, to get the press to recognize you, to make sufficient noise so that anybody even cares. You must make enough noise to get over the sound of the money counting machines and the cheers for the Super Bowl, for example, which was yet more construction and changes and chaos. So hopefully more people will benefit from these focused events, especially around professional sports. But it's important to measure these things. When you take measurements, when you actually ask people on the ground, when you have a continuous survey program in place in a smart city that can respond to its citizens, its residents, but also to its visitors, how they interact, the business that is developed, whether it has a negative impact, whether it's regionally focused, and if it's affecting in a negative way other regions, the list goes on. So if we're going to be a truly smart city, we should pay attention to the people who are in it and who are making it smart or making it smarter. And I don't just mean a couple of companies that are deploying AI-enabled cameras. I mean people who are doing really innovative things with food, with drink, with mechanical, with electrical, with computer, with software, with hardware, with conservation, with water, electricity, with solar panel, anything. It could be anything. There's a lot of opportunity anywhere on the planet. If you're going to do it here, you should not do it in a vacuum, my opinion. So if this is going to be an area that enables, encourages, and even empowers entrepreneurs and innovators, and I often say you can have one without the other, but I like to put them together. Two great tastes. And this is already in the other case in general for food and beverage. As I've said, they can be a part of the fun economy more obviously. Certainly a celebrity chef helps. A chef with Michelin stars or other recognition, or if they have a TV show on the Food Network, if they're a very boisterous British person, for example. So these are people that already sort of get the attention, and they already have celebrity working for them sometimes, major or minor. But it may make sense. I'm sure. Yes. Studio near a road. It may make sense to connect aspiring, nascent, and current entrepreneurs and innovators to the decisions and the directions that may otherwise block or obscure these efforts. So if I'm trying to accomplish something as a startup in the Greater Vegas area, and I try to find someone who will listen to me saying, if you're going to do this, we should also do that. And I'm being very vague here because I don't really have an example at this moment. But if you're going to enable access to the Strip for certain visitors for a certain event, you shouldn't do it by sacrificing access to downtown Vegas area, down to Summerlin, to Henderson. You shouldn't skew actual traffic flow for the benefit of a particular event that will actually do damage to other parts of other cities or other parts of the county. So these are things that probably get discussed at the top. Like, yeah, we got to have cars that can still get to Henderson. They got to be able to get to the airport. Think these top level discussions. But will they be able to get to this particular restaurant? Well, that's not our problem. That's the sense that some people have. So in our smart city, it might be interesting to consider whether we can actually listen. We have the tools. Everybody has a lot of people have devices in their pocket. They have access to devices on their desktops, as I am using right now. If only there were a way to do something other than create TikTok videos, bouncing around and counting your money, or YouTube videos counting more of your money. So the people who visit Vegas now and then for trade shows and focus their entrepreneurial, innovative energies and resources in geographical regions which might not proactively block them, might be the place to start. We should take maximal advantage of the people who do come here for trade shows, or who maybe come here occasionally to take advantage of some of the upsides, some of the rich resources that are available here, but they may conduct their business somewhere else where it's a little bit easier, where there's more access to capital, more access to talent pool, more supportive local government, et cetera. So these are all things to think about. These are things that we will continue to talk about here on the Cafe Genius Impresarios audio program, which is all about our entrepreneurial ecosystem, and especially, I was going to say all about our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem, especially the entrepreneurs. That's what an impresario is. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to check out buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo for a list of all my audio programs, especially as we begin to roll this program out to hopefully more places where you can find it and have access to it. Discovery of audio programs. Fun fact, the Greater Vegas area is rich with content creators, especially influencers. Why? Because food and drink are an important part of the fun economy, and so are the resorts and the various attractions, entertainments, and celebrity residencies, entertainment and otherwise. So there's plenty of information to talk about, but some people like to talk about our entrepreneurial innovation ecosystem. Some people like to talk about computers, entrepreneurial efforts focused on software development, the blockchain, whatever happened to that, the metaverse, AI. Lots of experts now floating around, people who have been doing it for weeks, but that's how you start. So don't forget to check out buymeacoffee.com/DanHugo. You do not have to spend any money there. You don't have to buy me anything. Although if you do spend money there, it will go for coffee. All of my projects are coffee powered. And that is where I will leave it. Thank you so much for listening on this, the 22nd of March, 2024, here in the lovely, spring is already here, Las Vegas.